Picture this. The year is 79 CE, and the air in Capua, one of Rome's great gladiator training cities, burns with the heat of midsummer. You stand barefoot on the pale sand of the Ludus, the gladiator school, your heartbeat pounding in rhythm with the distant roar of the amphitheater. The sun is merciless, the kind that flays skin and hope alike. The scent of sweat, blood, and bronze fills your nose. Iron shackles bite your wrists. Around you, men with scarred backs and hollow eyes train under the cracking of a whip. You can taste fear, your own and theirs. You were once a merchant servant perhaps, or a captive from a conquered province. But here, your name, your past, even your language mean nothing. You are property, a gladiator, and the man watching you from the shade, his expression unreadable, holds the power of life or death over you. His title is Lanista, the owner of this gladiator school. Before we begin this journey through Rome's most brutal spectacle, take a deep breath. You are listening to whispers of history. Where are you listening from? Is it morning or night? Wherever you are, let this story guide you through the dust, the roars, and the secrets of ancient Rome as you drift into rest or reflection. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another night of history whispered in your ear. For tonight, we'll uncover what life was truly like inside the Roman gladiator games, beyond the myths of glory and courage. You will see what it took to survive even a single day under the watch of the Lanista, how gladiators were trained, fed, punished, and paraded. You'll learn why most never left the sand alive, and why you, a modern soul, wouldn't last a single morning beneath that burning Roman sun. Because behind every shining sword and cheering crowd, there was silence. The silence of men waiting to die. The first thing you learn in the Ludus is pain. Your body is not your own. A trainer called a doctor strikes you in the gut with a wooden sword, the rudes, until you fall. Again, he says in Latin, and though you barely understand, you rise. Around you, the clang of blades fills the yard. Sweat drips from brows like rain from marble statues. The older fighters, veterani, glance at you briefly. They've seen hundreds like you. New blood, destined for the arena floor. At night, your body trembles as you sit by the oil lamp. The food, barley, porridge, beans, and stale bread, is heavy, but meant to build mass. The guards chain the gates. No one leaves the Ludus. Beyond those walls, you can hear faint music, laughter, free men drinking wine. You will never join them again. And yet, there's a strange rhythm to life here. You train, you eat, you sleep. You learn the stance of a murmillo, the heavy type with the fish-shaped crest on the helmet, armed with a short sword and large shield. The air smells of oiled leather and sand. You're told to fight as though your soul depends on it, because it does. Days turn to weeks. Your body hardens, your mind less so. You dream of escape, but the Lanista knows the thought. One man once tried to climb the wall at night. The next morning, his body was displayed in the yard as a warning. Better to die in the arena, the doctor murmured. The amphitheater looms always in the distance, its walls white as bone in the sunlight. When the wind is right, you can hear the crowd. Tens of thousands of voices rising as one. And somewhere in that chaos, senators and noblewomen sip wine, watching men like you die for sport. You imagine your name shouted, not with honor, but curiosity. Another victim, another show. Still, there are those who embrace it. Crixus, Spartacus, names whispered even then, rebels once enslaved who turned their chains into weapons. Their legend feeds hope, even if it's faint. Maybe one day, a fellow trainee whispers to you as you eat, we'll be free too. But freedom, in Rome, has a price, and that price is blood. One dawn, your group is summoned to the amphitheater for inspection. The scent of iron and dust clings to everything. As you step inside, your eyes widen. It's enormous, echoing with the sound of caged animals. Lions snarl from iron pens below the stands. You can hear the hiss of a crowd gathering above. the flutter of banners in imperial crimson. A Roman official, cloaked in white, watches as your Lanista presents you and the others. He's assessing, calculating, who will die quickly and who might entertain. The Lanista whispers, "Fight well, and the gods may smile on you." But you've heard enough whispers here to know the gods are silent. You're paired with another trainee, your practice blade heavy in your hands. The doctor signals. You move cautiously, shield up, sweat stinging your eyes. The first strike rattles through your arm like lightning. The second draws blood. The third, you hesitate, and he sweeps your legs out from under you. Sand fills your mouth. The crowd laughs. Not real blood sport. Not yet, but soon. Get up, the doctor snarls. You do, you must. That night, as the oil lamps flicker low, you sit in the corner of the barracks. The others snore softly, bodies broken but alive. One man whispers a prayer to Mars, god of war. Another carves a tiny symbol into the wall, a fish, secret sign of the Christians. You stare at it, wondering if any god listens down here. Outside, thunder rumbles over Capua. You close your eyes, imagining freedom, the scent of rain, the sound of waves. But all you feel is the weight of your shackles and the ache in your bones. And when sleep finally comes, it's filled with the echo of the crowd, chanting, screaming, hungering. You know deep down that it's your name they call. Tomorrow, they say, the Emperor himself might attend. Tomorrow, you may step into the arena for real. Tomorrow, you learn whether you'll live, or become another name buried in the sand. The dawn light creeps through the narrow slits of your cell, pale and cold. You've barely slept. The rumble of the city outside has begun. Carts rolling, vendors calling, the distant chant of priests offering incense to Jupiter. But here, inside the Ludus, the sound that wakes you is the scrape of iron keys. The guard kicks the door with his boot. Surge, he barks. Up, you rise. The smell of fear is thick. Men pacing whispering prayers in languages the Romans don't bother to learn. This morning is no training session. Today, the gates of the amphitheater will open for real combat. The air tastes metallic, and your stomach twists with hunger and dread. You've been told that the arena is glory, but you know now it's a slaughterhouse dressed in marble. Before you're marched out, the Lanista enters, calm as a merchant at market. He studies you, his investments, one last time. Remember, he says, the crowd decides life or death. Give them a show, and you might live to see another sunrise. His eyes linger on you, as though calculating your odds. You want to ask him something. Why must we die for them? But you don't. Questions are useless here. The doctor hands you your gear, a crested helmet, a curved shield, and a short sword, heavier than it looks. It's not the wooden rudies anymore, it's steel. You can smell the oil on the blade. This isn't a practice. The thought hits you with final clarity. After today, you might never draw breath again. You march with the others through a narrow passageway beneath the stands. Torches flicker, painting red shadows across the walls. The roar above grows louder, a monstrous sound, thousands of voices, hungry for spectacle. You glimpse cages to your left, lions pacing, elephants chained, condemned men praying. Rome's empire is vast, but here, beneath it all, the blood of slaves fuels the empire's pleasure. When the gates open, sunlight floods in like fire. You squint, and the sight steals your breath. The amphitheater of Capua, second only to Rome's Colosseum, rises in rings of blinding white marble. The crowd seems endless. Senators in purple togas, matrons waving scarves, children cheering with sticky fingers clutching figs. The emperor's envoy sits in a gilded box, watching from above. Welcome, people of Rome. A herald bellows. His voice echoes. Today, the gods will be honored, and courage will be tested. The crowd erupts. You're pushed forward into the light. The sand crunches beneath your feet, coarse, dry, stained with old blood. The smell is dizzying. You hear the iron gate clang shut behind you. There's no going back. Across the arena, another gate opens. Your opponent steps out. A Thracian, small but fast, armed with a curved sickle sword and a small round shield. His helmet gleams, the crimson plume trembling in the wind. He looks at you through the slits of his visor, silent, unreadable. Somewhere a horn sounds. The match begins. You circle each other, the noise of the crowd fading into a low hum. Your breathing is sharp, focused. He moves first, lunging. The impact shakes your arm. Sparks flash from the blades. You step back, the shield heavy against your chest. He's faster, trained longer. You swing, miss, sand sprays up. Another blow glances off your helmet, ringing in your ears. For a moment, everything blurs. The world narrows to heat, dust, and pain. You stumble and hear laughter from the stands. The crowd loves weakness. You force yourself upright, heart hammering. You think of freedom, of the ocean, of the promise of another dawn. You strike again, this time catching him across the thigh. He grunts, wounded, but not down. The horn sounds again, round over. You're both bleeding, panting, half blind with exhaustion. The herald announces, a good fight. The gods favor the brave. The crowd cheers. The fight will resume soon, but for now, slaves rush forward with water and towels. You drink greedily, hands shaking. Behind you, in the shadow of the archway, you notice a body, a fallen gladiator dragged away by chains. His eyes are open, staring at nothing. You look at him and realize that could be you minutes from now. The next round begins without warning. The Thracian charges. You raise your shield, deflect, swing. Your sword finds the gap under his arm. He collapses, sand spraying red. The crowd goes wild. You stand over him, chest heaving. The herald turns to the audience. The decision lies with you, he shouts. The crowd waves their hands, thumbs raised or turned. Your heart stops. Some cheer for mercy, others for death. The envoy waits for silence, then raises his own hand. Slowly, he turns his thumb down. You freeze. The doctor's voice echoes in your mind. Kill him or die yourself. You thrust the sword downward. It's over in a heartbeat. The roar of approval crashes over you like thunder. You stare at your hands, trembling. You've survived for now, but a part of you dies there in that sand. When the gates close behind you, silence returns. The air in the tunnels is cooler, almost merciful. You lean against the wall, dizzy, your ears ringing from the crowd's noise. Other fighters pass by, some limping, some carried. The smell of blood and smoke clings to everything. Good show, the Lannister says, approaching with a smirk. He hands you a cup of watered wine. You fought well. The people will remember you. You drink, not out of pride, but numbness. You've seen what remembrance costs here. In the barracks that night, the others sit in silence. One man hums an old song from Gaul. Another sharpens his blade, though he knows it won't save him forever. You lie awake, staring at the ceiling, your hands still shaking. The blood won't wash off easily. You realize now what the Romans called gloria. Glory is nothing but the glittering mask over cruelty. The games aren't about courage. They're about control. Every fight reminds the people who holds power, the emperor, the senate, the gods of Rome, and you, the gladiator, are their sacrifice. But as the lamps fade and night deepens, you overhear whispers from the far end of the barracks. A few men speak softly about rebellion, about freedom, about following the spirit of Spartacus. You close your eyes. Could it be possible again? Could men like you rise from the sand and defy an empire? Outside, a storm brews over the Campanian plains. The thunder echoes like the crowd's roar, distant, menacing. Tomorrow, the games continue. Tomorrow, you fight again. And though you've survived one day in the arena, deep down, you know Rome always demands more blood. The storm has passed, but its echo lingers. The next morning, the air over Capua is heavy, almost metallic, as though the gods themselves taste the blood spilled in the sand. You wake to the rattle of chains, to the sound of men coughing and groaning. Your muscles scream with every movement, your shoulder still bruised from yesterday's fight. The faint light filtering through the bars paints the room in stripes of gold and dust. You survived, but survival, you now understand, is not victory. It's merely permission to keep suffering. The doctor enters, his face carved from stone. Up, he commands. There's work to do. You obey. No one speaks as you follow him out into the yard. The air is thick with the smell of damp sand and iron. He inspects your wounds, smears them with vinegar and ash. It burns like fire. A gladiator feels pain, he says, but never shows it. You bite your tongue until you taste blood, swallowing the scream. As the day unfolds, you're assigned new drills. The doctor pairs you with a veteran, an old Murmelo named Verus, his body a map of scars. He moves slower now, but every strike is precise, calculated. Don't fight the man, he mutters as he corrects your stance. Fight the crowd. They're the real enemy. You look at him, confused. The crowd, he nods. They decide who lives. They crave beauty in death, rhythm, courage, even mercy. You give them that. You live another day. You make them bored. His gaze drifts toward the training wall where helmets hang, trophies of the dead. Then you die quickly. You practice for hours beneath the blazing sun. Sand fills your sandals, sweat stings your eyes. Every movement feels mechanical now. Block, step, strike, breathe. The sound of clashing steel becomes a rhythm of survival. But behind that rhythm beats the truth you can unhear. This is not training for freedom. It's choreography for your own execution. That night, the Lanista visits the barracks, bringing visitors, wealthy patrons from the city, perfumed and curious. They walk among you like they're browsing a market. One woman, draped in silk, points at you and whispers something to the Lanista. He nods approvingly. Later, he tells you she has requested you for a private banquet performance, not to fight to the death, but to entertain her guests with mock combat. You feel humiliation burn deeper than fear. A living trophy, a plaything for the elite. Remember your place, the Lanista warns. Displease them, and you'll wish for the arena instead. That night, you stand in a noble's courtyard, under oil lamps that flicker against marble statues of gods. Laughter echoes, wine flows. You and another fighter duel in silence, performing as trained beasts while Roman nobles clap and toss coins. The woman who requested you watches intently, her eyes sharp, assessing. For a moment, you catch her expression, fascination mixed with pity. Then she looks away. You finish the routine and bow as you've been taught. When the night ends, they send you back to the ludus. You carry the weight of those coins like chains. Weeks pass. The games continue. You fight again and again, sometimes to first blood, sometimes to death. Each time, the line between man and weapon blurs a little more. You learn the rhythms of the amphitheater, the swell of the drums, the signal of the horns, the way the crowd hushes before the final blow. You begin to understand why men like Verus call the arena the theater of survival. One evening, while cleaning your blade, you overhear a whisper, low, urgent. The rebellion spoken of weeks ago has taken root. A small band of gladiators, led by a Gaul named Castor, plans to escape through the tunnels beneath the amphitheater. They've found an old sewer route leading beyond the city. Your heart pounds. Freedom. It sounds impossible, suicidal, and yet the thought of one more day under the Roman gaze feels worse. You listen quietly as Castor says, "Tonight, after the last match, we move. No noise, no mercy for those who stand in our way." You can't sleep. Your pulse thrums in your ears. The air feels charged, thick with the promise of something desperate and sacred. You think of the sea, of your homeland, whatever fragments you still remember. You think of the faces of those who died beside you, and you decide you'll try. Midnight, the ludus is silent except for snores and distant thunder. Then a faint clatter, the sound of iron striking stone. You rise, shadows move between the bunks. Castor's voice hisses, now. You slip into the corridor, heart hammering. The torches flicker low. The first guard falls before he can shout, a quick strike from a dagger. The rebels move like ghosts, swift and silent. You follow them through the armory, past racks of swords and helmets. The smell of oil and blood is suffocating. You grab a weapon, the weight comforting in your trembling hands. Then chaos, a shout. The alarm bell rings. The ludus erupts. Guards rush in, blades flashing. You fight, barely seeing, your arm moving by instinct. You feel the sting of a cut across your side, but keep going. The corridor fills with smoke. Someone's lit the storeroom ablaze. Castor yells to the tunnels. You stumble after him through the fire and darkness, every breath searing your throat. The tunnel is narrow, slick with water. You can hear soldiers behind you, shouting, their torches bobbing closer. You slip, crash into the wall, scramble forward. The others are vanishing into the dark ahead. And then you see light, moonlight. The tunnel opens to the fields beyond Capua. You gasp, tasting the night air for the first time in years. Freedom, it's there, just ahead. But before you can move another step, an arrow whistles past your face. Then another. The Romans are waiting. A trap. Screams fill the night as the first rebels fall. Castor charges forward, bellowing for freedom, and is struck down. You drop behind a fallen cart, chest heaving. The world is chaos. Firelight steel, shouting. You grip your sword, torn between fight and flight. You've come so far, too far to turn back, yet every path ends in blood. You crawl toward the ditch, trying to escape into the fields. The sky is a deep, endless black. For one breath, you think you might make it. But then, a boot slams into your back. A Roman soldier stands over you, blade raised. Another slave, he sneers. And in that instant, as moonlight glints off his armor, you understand the games were never confined to the arena. Rome itself is one vast amphitheater, and you have always been its entertainment. The soldier's sword comes down, and everything goes dark. But fate, as Rome believes, is never simple. When you wake, you're not dead. Not yet. You're back in chains, back in the ludus, your wounds bandaged roughly. The lanista stands before you, silent. You fought well, he says at last. The crowd will love your return. Return. The word tastes like ash. You realize now what true captivity means. Not dying, but being forced to live for their applause. Tomorrow, you will enter the arena again. The crowd will cheer, the horns will sound, and the sand will drink new blood. And you will fight, not for glory, not for Rome, but for the faint illusion that maybe, just maybe, you can endure one more day. The next morning, Rome's sun rises blood red. It spills across the courtyard like an omen. You sit chained in the barracks, the memory of last night's failed escape burning through your mind like a fever. The wounds on your arms throb. The bandages reek of vinegar. Around you, silence, the kind that follows death. Of the 30 who fled, only 5 remain. The rest hang from the gates as a warning. Their shadows stretch across the sand like broken crosses. The doctor enters without a word. His eyes meet yours, and for the first time, you see something there that looks like pity. You'll fight again today, he says quietly. They're calling it the games of retribution. He turns away before you can answer, as if the sight of you costs him something. You know what that means. You and the others will die, not as gladiators, but as examples. Punishment turned into entertainment. The Lannister watches as they arm you. Every buckle and strap feels heavier than before. The armor gleams under the torchlight, polished for spectacle. The helmet goes on last, hot, suffocating, narrowing your world to 2 slits of light. You can barely breathe. He steps closer. "You're valuable," he murmurs. "Don't make this harder than it has to be. Survive, and I might sell you to a patron in Rome." They treat their champions well: food, coin, maybe even women. His voice drips with false kindness. You say nothing. The chain around your wrist speaks louder than any answer. Outside, the drums begin to roll. You march once more through the underground corridors. The same torches, the same smell of blood and smoke, the same echoing roar above. But this time, something in you has shifted. The fear is still there, but behind it burns something colder, quieter: acceptance. When the gates open, the light blinds you. The amphitheater is full to bursting. Even the Emperor's envoy has returned, his seat adorned with gold banners. The crowd chants for vengeance. They know what this day is: the punishment of rebels. The herald raises his hand for silence. "Citizens of Rome," he declares, his voice booming. "Today, the gods themselves will judge treachery. Let those who defied the law face their rightful fate." The gates opposite open a spectacle of horror. From the shadows emerge not men, but beasts. Lions, their manes glistening, claws dragging through the sand. The crowd erupts. You feel your heartbeat in your throat. But then, something unexpected: they release you with weapons. Not a sacrifice, then a show. A final test of Rome's mercy. The horn sounds. The lions charge. You move on instinct, rolling aside as a blur of muscle and teeth passes inches from your face. The ground shakes beneath the beast's weight. The crowd gasps, cheers. You scramble for footing, sand sticking to sweat. Another fighter screams, cut short as a lion drags him down. The sound is sickening. You grip your sword, breath sharp. The beast turns to you, eyes burning gold in the sunlight. You wait until the last moment, then thrust upward. The blade meets flesh, hot and wet. The lion roars, staggering. The crowd explodes into applause. You drop to your knees, panting, shaking. But there's no time. Another comes. You raise your shield. The impact sends pain through your arm. You stab again, until silence falls. You don't know how long you fight, only that when it ends, the sand is red, and the air smells of iron and smoke. The herald's voice echoes, distant and unreal. Courage, valor, the gods favor the survivor. You look around, only 3 of you remain. The crowd is wild with approval, throwing flowers, coins, pieces of bread. None of it feels real. You're pulled to your feet by guards, half conscious, your body trembling with exhaustion. The Lannister meets you at the tunnel entrance. "Well done," he says softly. "You've become something the crowd loves, and that, my friend, is rarer than freedom." You want to strike him, to scream, to run, but you don't. You simply walk past, silent, as the gates close behind you. Days blur. You no longer count the sunrises. You fight when told, eat when fed, sleep when exhaustion crushes you. The pain becomes background noise, like the hum of the city beyond the walls. Sometimes, you catch your reflection in the water trough, your face hardened, eyes dull. You barely recognize yourself. Then, one evening, something strange happens. The Lannister summons you to his office, a dim room lined with scrolls, incense burning in a bronze bowl. He hands you a small object wrapped in cloth. You unwrap it carefully. Inside lies a rudis, the wooden sword. You stare, uncomprehending. "It's yours," he says. "The symbol of freedom. You've earned it." The words hit you like a blow. In Roman tradition, a gladiator who receives the rudis is released from bondage. No longer a slave, no longer forced to fight. You look up at him, waiting for the trick, the smirk, the cruel laughter. But it never comes. "Go," he says quietly. "Before I change my mind." You walk through the gate alone. The city hums with life beyond the arena. Merchants, children, soldiers, lovers. The air feels strange without the constant weight of chains. You pass the taverns, the temples, the marble fountains. No one recognizes you. To them, you are just another face in the crowd. You stop at the edge of the road leading out of Capua. The sky is turning gold over the distant hills. The wind smells of olive groves and rain. You take a deep breath, and for the first time in years, it doesn't taste of iron. Freedom, it feels fragile, unreal. The world beyond Rome is vast, uncertain. But it's yours now, for as long as the gods allow. Still, even as you walk, the memories follow. The roar of the crowd, the heat of the sand, the faces of the men who died beside you. You realize that part of you will always remain in that amphitheater, beneath those watching eyes. Because once you've been a gladiator, you never truly leave the arena. It lives inside you. And so you keep walking, each step a quiet defiance of Rome itself. Centuries later, when the Colosseum in Rome lies in ruin, and the world is changed beyond recognition, travelers will stand in its shadow and wonder, how did they live through this? How did they fight? And if they listen closely, they might still hear it, the distant echo of swords clashing, the murmured prayer of a slave before dawn, the final breath of a man who refused to kneel.